Hi students, I'm making this video for those who are being quarantined. And first, I wish you all good health and stay safe. Eat healthy food, fruits and vegetables as well. Okay, and take care first. Okay, I will have a quick kind of a review of what we have discussed in the last 3 days. We have started with for year 8. I'm making this video for year 8. Okay, and we have started with respiration, and the process of respiration is nothing but just releasing energy. Okay, and energy is very much important for your body to be actively involved in various activities like your body systems and at even the cellular system, cellular level. Respiration is very much important for most of its function, isn't it? Without energy, what can we do, isn't it? Okay, now, so we know that respiration is a process where you release energy. Okay, now if you put that respiration into kind of an equation, it is just an opposite to photosynthesis. For how, like you take glucose, okay, and then glucose combines with oxygen, and then together they mix up, and they produces the product or say carbon dioxide and water. In doing so, it releases energy. Okay, and we already discussed about where this energy has been trapped. Okay, energy is always being trapped in the bonds of these chemicals, the compounds that we already discussed in previous lessons. So now, so when the enzymes breaks them down, each bonds gets broken down. When they do so, energy which is trapped in them will get released, and the energy which is being trapped will be carried in a special molecule. We call them as ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. We also discussed this in our previous lesson. Now, we put this equation together, okay, like glucose and oxygen gives what? Carbon dioxide and water, okay, and then energy. How much of energy is being produced in aerobic respiration? Like humongous, like one molecule of glucose will give you approximately like 2830 kilojoule of energy. Okay, when you compare this with anaerobic respiration, okay, I'll tell you what is anaerobic respiration a little later. Okay, anaerobic respiration, one molecule of glucose will earn like just 118 kilojoule. And look at where the value of 2830 and 118 kilojoule, like 18 times better than anaerobic respiration. Which one? Aerobic respiration. Okay, so aerobic respiration happens right through single cell organisms, which is unicellular to multicellular organisms like humans like us and the extinct one like dinosaurs, everything. So if any cell is said to be living, they need to respire. Okay, so respire in the sense they need to release energy for its activity. I hope you understood this basic concept. Now, the next part. What kind of the different types of respiration? We have two different types of respiration. One is aerobic, the other one is the anaerobic. What do you mean by aerobic? Aerobic says as air, isn't it? Air. So when a respiration takes place in the presence of air, in this we talk about oxygen. The gas particle is what? The gas molecule is oxygen. So any respiration takes place in the presence of oxygen, we call them as aerobic respiration, and in the absence of oxygen, we call them as anaerobic respiration. Okay, so we spoke about respiration and we spoke about oxygen. Do every organism use only oxygen? No. Okay, because bacteria which is living right through deep into the sea, okay, the deep sea ocean, okay, think about those bacteria living there. Do they get enough oxygen? Ultimately no, isn't it? So they also need to respire to get energy. They need to respire, okay, because why? Energy is important for other activities of their cell, okay, to multiply, to become more in number, to to excrete, to feed, everything they need what? Energy, okay. So in those cases they undergo anaerobic respiration, which means in the absence of oxygen. Now where in cases our body will go anaerobic respiration? Think of this situation. So usually when I sit and talk, I am doing aerobic respiration. When you just watch and listen, or when you sleep, you are actually doing what? Respiration, aerobic respiration, which means your inner cells, like each every single out of those trillions of cells, every single one of them are actively doing something. That is respiration. Okay, they release energy. Understand? Even though we don't listen, we don't do, we become inactive, whatever it is, the inner cells, they doesn't care about it. They always are active. Understand? They do their job, respire. Okay, in this case, so where we are, forgot. Okay, aerobic respiration, right? So where this aerobic respiration takes place? So every single cell has a cellular organelle called mitochondria. And mitochondria, if you see, it's an outer, membrane, and then outer membrane is covered within an inner membrane, and the inner membrane is completely folded like this, as we discussed in the previous lesson. Okay, hope you remember those pictures. In that, the folded area, we call them as cristae. Okay, there you have this aerobic respiration. Mitochondria, in general terms, throughout your junior grades, you should have studied like the powerhouse of a cell is mitochondria, isn't it? Yes, exactly they are. Okay, they are the one which actually generate or release energy. Understand? But not often all the times, because sometimes you think about a situation where you have to just run a 100-meter race. Can you breathe and run at the same time? It's impossible, isn't it? And out in the wild, think about a cheetah chasing its prey, a deer. It runs like 100 miles per hour. Can it be able to breathe at the same time run? No, because they need to hold on the breath for some time so that their muscles are active. So in these situations, you need energy to do that activity, irrespective of whether you are taking in oxygen or not. But then you need energy to do this, do these activities. So in these situations, your body undergoes another process of respiration, which is anaerobic, which means in the absence of oxygen. Are the products of aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration same? No, they are not, because there aerobic respiration, oxygen is involved, and here oxygen is not involved, isn't it? So in aerobic respiration, the products are carbon dioxide and water, and they release enormous amount of energy. And here in aerobic respiration, just a glucose molecule, nothing is reactive. Okay, this glucose molecule, because of so many enzymes, okay, they convert into just a product, isn't it? This glucose molecule, which is C6H12O6, converts into half of it, which is lactic acid. In the muscles of animals, like C3H6 and O3, we get 2 molecules of it, isn't it? So that lactic acid is being produced, not carbon dioxide and water. Okay. So where does this take place? The actively respiring cells. When someone is running, what are those actively respiring cells? It's your muscles, isn't it? So muscles are the one which makes this anaerobic respiration. So the product is what? Lactic acid. And there is a drawback for this lactic acid as well, because whenever, you might have seen this, when you are playing, all of a sudden you get this muscle cramp, okay? You cannot lift your legs properly, you cannot straighten your legs properly. Why? Because during anaerobic respiration, buildup of lactic acids will be there. And you know that lactic acid is the product of anaerobic respiration. If more amount of lactic acid is being completely accumulated in your cells of muscles, what happens? It contracts the muscles. Entire cells will contract together. It contracts the muscles. So when they contract, we call them as cramp. Understand? We call them as what? Cramp. Understand? So now this is so dangerous because you are getting cramp, okay, completely. You cannot move. Now, these lactic acids needs to be drained out. If too much of lactic acid makes entire body, entire muscles cramp. Understand? Which means they cannot relax. So for that, you can assume for yourself, if you are running like 100 meters, a race, after you finish, you gasp, for oxygen. You pant literally, okay, you breathe. The breathing rate is heavy. Heart is pumping faster. And you breathe faster. Okay, breathing rate will be more per minute, isn't it? Why do you breathe? Because a process is taking place without oxygen. So, there is a debt, okay. You have released energy without oxygen, okay. Now, lactic acid is produced. Now, you have to repay those oxygen, okay, the molecules, which has been lacking while during releasing energy. And this oxygen, when you take after you stop exercise, like when you're pant, when you gasp for oxygen, this oxygen will enter your body and goes to the muscles, and then the lactic acid is being converted back into carbon dioxide and water. And this oxygen, which is used to repay, okay, like whatever oxygen has not been taken before, we call them as oxygen debt. Okay, it's like a payback time. Understand? The oxygen which you are taking it, you are using for what? To repay whatever oxygen has not been used before doing that hard running. Okay, you understand what is oxygen debt? It is the amount of oxygen which is used to convert this lactic acid, or to break down the lactic acid, which was formed because of what? Anaerobic respiration. So this is the scenario. You understood, I know. You must be thinking why your heart pumps faster. Why? Because heart is the one which pumps the blood to entire part of your body. When they pump faster, it means that RBCs are the one which carries oxygen towards your body. So it gets a lot of oxygen getting involved to those muscles. So it literally means you are pumping in more of oxygen to the cells, which actually wants to break down this lactic acid. Time up, I'll finish it in 2 minutes, okay? I have a class to go, fine. Next one, we come back to anaerobic respiration in other scenario. One we have discussed about humans and animals in the muscles, okay, produces lactic acid, we know it. Now what are the other animals which could able to do this anaerobic respiration? There are kind of say for instance plants and yeast, understand? Plants, think about the mangrove forest where the trees are surrounded with a large amount of water, okay, it's like a swamp, understand? Like a lot of water, stagnant water. The roots are completely submerged in the water. They cannot take in oxygen, isn't it? In those scenarios, the plants, the trees will undergo anaerobic respiration. And think about yeast, the one which we use in our baking, bread baking and all, okay? Making bread and even brewing beverages, understand? If you are a South Indian, you should be knowing about idli dosa, okay? Idli dosa we take as a breakfast in the morning, understand? So those things used to be made by some other product, okay, which in this case we use yeast. It's a microorganism, okay, type of fungus, yeast. They can never do aerobic respiration. They can only do anaerobic respiration, okay. Even if you have oxygen, they will not go for oxygen. They are happy with anaerobic respiration. I don't want oxygen, I'll do it for myself. That's what the yeast would always prefer. So what are the products in this anaerobic respiration? Okay, when glucose is directly converted into, it's not like combining the oxygen, okay, directly giving some product. So this glucose, when directly broken down, they produce ethanol, a form of alcohol, okay, ethanol, and then carbon dioxide is released. Now you should be thinking about the bread, why they have pores on the bread, okay, because why? Because of carbon dioxide produced during this fermentation. Okay, I use the word fermentation, keep this word, okay, because whenever the process of ethanol is produced in anaerobic conditions, okay, like in the absence of oxygen, we call them as fermentation. So if they ask you what are the products of fermentation, you can right away write what? Carbon dioxide and, what another one? Ethanol, exactly, super, okay. Ethanol and carbon dioxide. You can blindly write ethanol and carbon dioxide, the products of fermentation. Even someone is making, it's big in during Christmas and all, they do prepare wine in their houses, okay. How do they do it? They use these grapes, okay, mash it up, and then they add little yeast, and then keep it for a good favorable conditions, like the room temperature like 27 degrees centigrade, few days, okay, it get fermented into ethanol and they filter it. There are certain process goes on. We don't want to discuss about that. I'm just giving an idea about what fermentation is. So fermentation is used in predominantly in all cases, understand? And the products are ethanol and carbon dioxide, okay. Does every organism do anaerobic respiration? There are certain organisms will do only anaerobic respiration. For instance, as we discussed about the microbes living in deep ocean, okay, they cannot do aerobic respiration, okay, there's no oxygen, isn't it? And then yeast, okay, and rest, there are many microorganisms which can do both aerobic and anaerobic. So whenever there is oxygen is present, they will go for aerobic respiration. Why? Aerobic respiration produces enormous amount of energy, whereas anaerobic respiration produces less, isn't it? So wherever there is no sufficient amount of oxygen present, they go for anaerobic respiration. When there is sufficient amount of oxygen is present, they always go for what? Aerobic respiration. So I wind it up, aerobic respiration, carbon dioxide, water, okay, and then releases energy. The energy carrying molecule is ATP. How much joule of energy? 2830 kilojoule of energy, okay. In case of anaerobic respiration, the respiration gives you without oxygen, without oxygen, what it happens is, sorry for the interruption, okay, you know that they come, open the door and they close it, okay, fine. In anaerobic respiration, what happens? It produces ethanol and carbon dioxide. And think whether water is there or not. Do the balanced equation, you will get to know whether water is produced or not. Okay? All the best. This is what happened previously, and in today's lesson what we did is like we took the students to the lab. They did some kind of an experiment to check whether the solution of given sample is an acidic or basic. They used litmus paper, and they checked the range of the pH. They used the universal indicator paper, and then they also did some experiment testing whether what happens when an acid mixed with metals. As you know, it produces salt, and then the gas is left out, it's hydrogen gas. And they also did this splint test to find the popping sound of this hydrogen. Okay, when splint is put out with the popping sound, they also did that, and they checked for themselves. And I have to absolutely go, and don't worry, I'll post this in Indonesian today itself. And anything else you can come and ask me as usual. Okay, you can text me in Indonesian also, not a problem. Take care, stay safe and stay healthy, and always eat healthy foods, no junk foods. Bye. Take care.